When you went through the interview process for the agency that you work for, I bet you guys probably talked a lot about insurance. Probably talked a lot about policies and maybe some carriers and what it's like to work for an insurance agency and so forth. I don't know, however, if they talked about the second career that you have inside of the quote unquote insurance industry. And it's usually this second career, which really is the first career. It is this part, these other half of what you do that causes most producers to actually fail. What is this other career inside the insurance industry that you're a part of? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in today's episode. I'm going to explain what causes a lot of agents to fail and how can you fix that so that you're not the one that fails. Stay tuned. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Millionaire Insurance Producer Podcast. My name is Charles Specht, and I am your host. Thank you very much for listening today. It's been a bit since I've had a chance to talk with you. I felt kind of burned out towards the end of October and November, decided just to take a little bit of a break. Was doing a lot with some courses. I launched my Permission Producer School, so I was doing a lot to get ready for that. And then when it was done, I just said, I just need to take a little bit of a breather. So I'm back for it, and I'm excited to be with you today. So thank you for sticking around and being a part of the Millionaire Insurance Producer Network. Appreciate you guys. Today, we're going to talk about this two-sided career issue, okay? And here's the thing. You refer to yourself as an insurance agent, obviously. That's what you are. You're a broker, you're an agent, you might call yourself an advisor, a producer, whatever it is. You're in the insurance business. But the thing that causes us to have either success or failure very often is how many appointments we're able to set. And it is this appointment setting that separates the pros from the amateurs, I feel, so very much. Most insurance agents struggle at appointment setting, period. They struggle at appointment setting. Many insurance agents that I speak to will say, Charles, if I could just get more at-bats, that is more appointments, I could close the business. I can write more insurance. I'm just having a hard time getting past the gatekeeper, getting the decision maker to meet with me and so forth. And my thought is, yeah, absolutely. Appointment setting is hard. It is absolutely hard. And guess what? Appointment setting is not insurance. Appointment setting is a different career altogether, one that you did not interview, that was not a part of the job description necessarily. When you thought, I'm going to be an insurance agent, it is different. Now, that's not to say that anybody was saying you weren't going to have to prospect. I'm just saying that prospecting, appointment setting particularly, is not insurance. Let me try to explain this. If you or your agency wanted to completely outsource your prospecting and appointment setting, they could, you could. Why? Because you don't need an insurance license to call somebody and set an appointment. You don't need an insurance license to send emails, to do social media, and so forth. You don't need an insurance license to pick up a telephone, call somebody on the other side of the planet, and schedule an appointment with you and this other insurance buyer at 2:00 on a Tuesday. This is prospecting, appointment setting. I could find a company right now. I could outsource all of your cold calling. I could find one. I could find one in the Philippines. I could find one in India. I can find one in Oregon. I can find one down the street from you. I could hire a homeless guy off the street and just put some clothes on him, put him in an office, give him a telephone, and have him make calls on your behalf. Why? Because appointment selling is prospecting, and prospecting is not selling insurance. It's a completely different career. It's a completely different industry. So I could hire a call center in the Philippines to actually make the phone calls. I could hire a social media company to come in and actually take over your LinkedIn profile, your company's LinkedIn profile, your Facebook, your Instagram, and so forth. I could hire a company to do seminars. I could hire a company to do videos. I could hire a company to do almost anything for you when it comes to actually setting appointments and prospecting. Why? Because it is not selling insurance. I say very often that prospecting is a numbers game and selling insurance is a relationship game. And I still believe it 100%. Prospecting is a numbers game. Selling insurance is a relationship game. Once the appointment is set, now it becomes about relationship. If you have the ability and the resources and you're fortunate enough to be able to outsource your prospecting, then you don't have to learn how to necessarily get past the gatekeeper and so forth. But unfortunately, most of you don't have that wonderful thing happening in your life. You actually have to do the prospecting yourself. I have a few clients that absolutely do. They pay companies to do all of the appointment setting for them, 100%. I mean, literally 100%. They pay for all prospecting to be done because they don't want to do it themselves. So they make a little bit less on, maybe it's even a lot less on the account for the first year, but they can make it up in volume and the renewals over the course of time. It just makes a whole lot more sense for them to do that. That's how they have it set up. But most insurance producers don't do it that way. So most insurance producers are hired. They might go to, an insurance sales training program. They might go to producer school, whatever it is. They learn a whole lot about policy language and exclusions and, general liability and work comp and everything else. But the fact is you can't even do any of that stuff until you can get somebody that wants to meet with you. And so it is two completely different industries, two completely different careers. You can be the world's greatest insurance producer that has ever been. But if you can't set appointments, you, my friend, are going to starve. That's just how it is. Yet at the same time, you can be the world's greatest prospector and you can set appointments like it's no big thing. But if you can't close business, you are going to starve. It is interesting that the insurance producers that tend to have the greatest success, the larger books of business, are able to figure out how to either get referrals coming in or they're able to set more appointments and at the same time close more business. Most agents, however, what I typically find is that it's not that they're bad insurance agents. I would say they're also not necessarily great insurance agents, but maybe they're pretty good at relationship. They can just get people to feel comfortable with them and so forth. And so they can quote enough business, throw enough mud against the wall to see what sticks and so forth. And so they can win business, but they don't have a process set in place. But the problem is those people that are pretty decent at relationship aren't necessarily very good at prospecting. There really aren't too many training courses out there, sales schools that teach you all about prospecting. I mean, I'd like to think that I spend a lot of time on prospecting. In fact, in my permission sales framework, it's 5 parts, and the first 2 parts are all about prospecting, pre-prospecting and prospecting, because it is the most important first career in the insurance industry that you have. And we really need to become pros at pre-prospecting and prospecting in order to get the type of success that we want. But most insurance agents don't go through a whole lot of training on how do you do a cold call? What should be your messaging? Who should you call in the first place? What should be your micro niche? I mean, most insurance agents just kind of show up and they're like, what should I call on? Why should I call on this? I don't know. Do the carriers want to write this kind of stuff? I don't know. They just kind of wing it. They're playing chicken business and they're not getting very good success. This is definitely the insurance agency's fault and its leadership fault from top down because they don't have a process set up for their producers. But the other side of the responsibility is the insurance agent because it's their responsibility to figure it out. This is their career. Their spouse is relying upon them. Their children is relying upon them to figure it out. Let me just put it this way. Your spouse, my friends, your children, listeners, are relying upon you to figure out prospecting so that you can actually get the results that you want for yourself. 100%. But if you can't get it, if you can't set the appointments, you will struggle. And I know that that struggle bus is no fun to be on. It is no fun when you are just not getting the results that you want from your prospecting. The thing that also, when I talk to like insurance agents, it's amazing at how many don't have a process for prospecting because they don't like rejection. They get rejected so very often because their messaging is poor and they're not doing a follow-up program and they don't really have a process for prospecting. So because their process is messed up, they don't have a follow-up program and their messaging is off. It's just not resonating with anybody. They end up getting lots of rejection and therefore they don't actually do a lot of prospecting. It is like a swirling, you're just going down. It's negative. It's just you're going into the pits. It is no fun when things aren't working out very well. And I would tell you, 70% of the insurance agents that I speak to, maybe even 80%, more than that, I would say that their entire prospecting and pre-prospecting is less than a C, less than average, close to failure, definitely more closer to a D than a C. And that is one of the primary reasons that they are deficient in their overall commission check. Period. They don't know who they're going to call. They don't know what they're going to say when they call. They don't have a follow-up program for when they're making the phone calls. And they only prospect typically in one way rather than a multitude of different ways. And when that happens, they get poor results that don't actually help them set appointments in order to win business. Prospecting is a numbers game. It is your ultimate responsibility to be able to figure it out. But it's hard. And frankly, they don't teach this stuff in business school. They don't teach it when you're trying to get your insurance license. Most insurance agencies don't have a sales process or any kind of sales training that's involved. Very often, they will ship the producer off to a producer school where they learn Hartford policy language or Liberty Mutual policy language. And frankly, even though they might sometimes throw in a little bit of sales training, I mean, I've been there, I've done that, and it's just really not very good sales training. It's not focused on the things that matter. They're not saying the things that the prospects want to hear. Therefore, they don't know the problems that the prospect is dealing with. They don't know how to articulate the solution that they have to those problems, and they can't help the insured to see what the intended reward is at the end of the process. And so they're not able to paint a picture for the insured on where they're taking them, what the problems are, how we're going to fix it, and what the ultimate outcome is going to be after all is said and done. And because they are not able to do that in about 30 seconds or less, they can't set appointments. And they never even get a chance to get an at-bat. I mean, when you do a typical telephone call and you're calling your prospects, how many seconds do you think they will listen to you before they are done listening to you and will tell you one of two objections? Now's not a very good time, or we're happy with who we have. They're going to give you those two objections, and they give you those two objections because your messaging stinks. You know, you're not saying very good things. Your scripting is just not right. It's not resonating with anybody. And so they just keep giving you these two objections. Now's not a very good time. I'm in the middle of payroll. We don't renew for another few months. Can you call back later? Can you call back next Tuesday? Can you call back next month? I'd love to have a chance to talk with you. Call back next month. Or, you know what? We've had our agent for about 7 years. We're pretty good. I like my agent. We've got an agent. You hear these objections all the time. It's because you're not resonating with the people that you're speaking to. Why? Because you haven't really developed a process. You haven't taken a step back and even brainstormed what are the major 3 to 5, maybe even 7 major pain points that your micro niche is dealing with. What's the kind of stuff that keeps them up at night? What do they want to think about when it comes to their insurance plan? What would they like to fix? And what would be the outcome they want? Does their agent keep showing up last minute with quotes? Does their agent bring them options to the quoting process? If the answer is no, then that should probably be part of your messaging. If your micro niche is struggling because they're not able to find new employees, there's just not many out there, maybe you could have some kind of a messaging that details that. You don't necessarily have to have the world's greatest solution to these problems. You don't even have to have a solution yourself. You can bring in other consultants as part of your quote unquote solution to these problems. I'm not saying you have to have it all figured out. I am saying you need to have a solution, because if you don't have a solution to the basic pain points that they have in their business and insurance, they don't need you. But if you can figure those out, then they will be needing you. And the whole goal of prospecting is to set the first appointment. That's the whole goal. I mean, that's why you do cold calling, because you're trying to set the appointment. That's why you do your emails and your social media. That's why you send out direct mail, whatever. You are trying to set an appointment. If you can't set an appointment, you're not going to be able to talk and meet with a decision maker. So there are so many different things that come into play when we're talking about appointment setting. When you're doing your prospecting, how far in advance of the renewal on the policy or the plan are you calling the insured? Your hit ratio is going to go up and down based upon the time period that you're calling on this insured. Are you calling on accounts that tend to have a gatekeeper? You are going to have a lower hit ratio when you're calling on accounts that tend to have a gatekeeper. If you struggle at getting past the gatekeeper, your hit ratio is going to tank. It's going to be bad. I usually tell people, if you can't get past a gatekeeper, one, we either need to figure out how to do it, or two, you're going to have to completely figure out a different way of prospecting to go around the gatekeeper. Like, why keep making telephone calls if you can't get past a gatekeeper? Let's get the person's email address. Let's get decision makers' LinkedIn profile and send messages. You've got to go around the gatekeeper. Or third, just start calling on a different class of business that tends to not have a gatekeeper, so that you can get past that person. Because at the end of the day, I don't care what you're going after, even how large the account is. If you're putting up goose eggs every month, zeros, because you can't set any appointments, you might as well go after something different that you can set more appointments and then win more business. So the thing is like kind of where I'm getting to this in regards to the summary here is that you might be a really good insurance agent. You might understand coverages, limits, all of that. Your agency might have great services. You might have great personnel, the very adequate account managers, customer service reps, work comp claims management people. You might have a tremendous number of amazing insurance carriers that you're appointed with, but all of that is worth zero if you can't get anybody to meet with you. So with that said, everything in regards to selling insurance's relationship is put on the back burner, and you have to become a professional at appointment setting. You have to figure out how to set appointments to meet with insurance buyers. This is the first part of your career. The second part comes when you finally do set that appointment. But you have to become a professional. You got to figure this out. You got to be militant at it. Like, you got to desire these set appointments more than anything else, because if not, you will starve. There's no commission check if you can't even meet with somebody. So we need to take this seriously. And I'm telling you, literally, I don't think the vast majority of insurance agents out there who are producers take this seriously. They are scared, timid in regards to prospecting. They're nervous about rejection. They don't know what to say. They don't know who to call on. They don't know how to overcome objections. They don't know how to get past gatekeepers. There's a lot of different things that hinder insurance agents from having the type of success that they want. It comes down to prospecting. Prospecting is a numbers game. Selling insurance is a relationship game. It's true. Prospecting is a numbers game. Selling insurance is a relationship game. My advice to you as an insurance producer or as an agency owner would be to stop, take a step back, start to look at your process. Start to look at who exactly am I calling on and why. Start to brainstorm and list out the major problems that they typically have in their insurance type of program. Not enough carriers have bad coverages, or maybe there's a lot of carriers and a lot of good coverages, whatever. Figure out the pain points as you can in the insurance plan or the policy. Figure out also the problems in the agency side, the agency activity, not doing a very good job of getting quotes, not going out to many carriers, showing up last minute with quotes, all of that. Pricing is too high, the premium creeps up every year and so forth. Figure out what these problems are, and then try to determine what would be your solution to each of these problems. Then I would say take that message your solution to that big problem and dummy it down to like a 4-year-old child. Don't speak to your prospect with really big words that are hard to find. By that, I mean, stop talking about things like loss ratio, risk management, loss control, enterprise risk, all that kind of stuff. Like, just talk about the solution to the problem in a way that they can understand it. Your prospect wants 3 things. They want to save money, they want to save time, and they want peace of mind. They don't want you to be an encyclopedia, to talk over their head, to talk about things that don't make sense. And by that, I mean, for example, I can say, we provide really good loss control. Do you know what that means? I don't know what that means either. I have no idea what that means. You could say, we do really good risk management. What does that mean? I have no idea. So we need to define what these things are in ways that don't cause the insured to lose interest. We don't confuse them. If in your messaging you confuse your prospect, you will lose your prospect. We don't want to do that. We want to highlight the problem, talk about our solution, ask them if Tuesday at 9 a.m. is a good time to meet for 20 minutes. Talk about the problem, highlight your solution, ask for the appointment. Talk about the problem, highlight your solution, ask for the appointment. Bob, I understand that your insurance is creeping up every month, and it's you're paying a lot more for insurance this year than you did last year. One of the things that we're able to do for plumbing subcontractors here in the state of Tennessee is that we can lower insurance costs by as much as 17% for qualified plumbers here in the state of Tennessee in the very first year. We are able to do this through a unique process we have with the carriers and our negotiation. 17% potential reduction in cost is what we provide to you, potentially, plumbing subcontractor, in the very first year. I'd like to sit down and just meet with you for 20 minutes to show how we might be able to lower your insurance costs by 17%. Does Tuesday at 9 work for a 20-minute meeting to potentially lower your insurance costs by 17%? A simple message like that. Okay, simple message like that. Prospecting is a numbers game. Selling insurance is a relationship game. Now, I can almost feel your anger through the virtual realm here. I can hear some of the old school people, the old guard, say, Charles, we don't sell on price. And I say, exactly, we sell on relationship. But we're not even meeting with the insured yet. We're trying to set appointments. And prospecting is a numbers game. It's not a relationship game. Selling insurance is a relationship game. When you finally get to the appointment and meeting with the insured, it's about relationship. Until then, it's not about relationship. Right now, it's about price. It's about numbers. It's about how many cold calls you can do and how many per hour and how many seconds does your voicemail take and all of that. Numbers, 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 and the numbers don't lie. And so when somebody says, we don't sell on price, I'm like, I get it. We're not even selling insurance yet. We're just doing prospecting. We're just trying to help the insured to realize this is kind of like what we would like to shoot for. Would you like to meet with us and see whether or not we want to go to step 2? That's all prospecting is. Set an appointment, see if they'll go to step 2. Whatever that is. That's it. That's prospecting. Prospecting is to set an appointment to see if you guys can go to the next step. Selling insurance is a lot, because when it comes to selling insurance, essentially what you really are trying to do is get somebody fired so you can get hired. We're not trying to get anybody fired in the initial telephone call. We're trying to set the appointment. Once you get to the appointment, then you talk about getting the other incumbent agent fired and you hired. That's relationship. I get it. You're not selling on price, 100%. But at the same time, I also know, aren't you typically the one that wants to show up with the least amount of premium for the quotes? You want to show up with the better quotes, right? Of course you do. You don't want to just, hope that you're going to win a lot of business by being more expensive than everybody else. You want to be the one who shows up with the really competitive quotes from the better insurance carriers. You don't sell on price, but I also know that you probably end up, binding coverage with a lot of carriers that had the least amount of price. And so let's just not play games. Let's not play Pattygate here. Let's just call it what it is. I'm not saying you always bind business with the least amount of premium. No, I'm just saying that you know that price is important because you very often will place business with the good sort of plan or the good sort of policy with the least amount of premium possible. Period. That's all. And After all said and done, you got to get the other agent fired in order for you to win. That's selling insurance. That's selling. We're just talking about prospecting. Prospecting is not selling. It's like practice. Practice? We're talking about practice. Practice is not the game. Practice is prospecting. The game is selling. You can't get in the game if you can't prospect. You can't sell insurance if you can't get anybody to meet with you. Prospecting is not selling insurance. But I 100% know for certain that you are not going to sell a single policy if you can't get anybody to meet with you. Prospecting is a numbers game. Selling insurance is a relationship game. You might be a really good insurance agent, but if you are a terrible prospector, you better start outsourcing it or figure out a better process if you hope to cash a commission check. My name is Charles Specht. I am the president and CEO of Permission Network Insurance Agency, where I teach and train insurance agents just like you how to prospect, set appointments, get the other agent fired and you hired, and build your book of business to $1 million or more through signed broker of record letters. This is the Millionaire Insurance Producer Podcast.